Hey gang, how we doing? My name is Evan Turricini. For the past 7 years, I have been the creative services my marketing and creative services manager at Speakeasy Stage Company. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a tall, broad, late 20s, cis white man with a scruffy beard and messy brown hair and glasses. And this December, I'll be starting a new role as the Director of Marketing and Communications at Actor Shakespeare Project in Boston. Go Sox. I'm a creative services manager. You may know that better as a graphic designer by trade. So I'm not going to give you as many of these, KPIs, these ROIs as you've been getting part of this convention. We're really going to get into more of that right brain creativity. I'm going to help you get your creative juices flowing for when you don't have Instagram ready show footage in time, or when you need to make those few show photos go the extra mile. So let's start with a quick story. This is a brief story about assets, arts marketing, and also somehow the Matrix. So Speakeasy Stage Company is part of this amazing cohort called BAMA, the Boston Arts Marketing Alliance. We meet a couple times a year and we compare notes and talk about problems we're having in our field. This was my first ever BAMA meeting as a member of Speakeasy Stage Company. And we're going to talk about social media content. I'm like, great, I'm all about that. We had just bought this brand new DSLR camera at a Black Friday sale, and I had just really been excited to show off this video I'd made for our production of Scottsboro Boys. They were all in these little Brady Bunch boxes. They looked really great. I almost got them to do the salute at the same time. It was so close. And so I was really proud of that and talking about that. And then the next organization went, and I know they're probably here today, so I want to say, guys, I really love your work. They're about 15 to 20 times our size and budget, and they were talking about how they had rented or bought or somehow acquired the same video cameras used in The Matrix to make that one scene. You guys know the scene I'm talking about? And they had filmed their performers using those cameras. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen in arts marketing, but I felt myself begin to, slump down in my chair a little bit and feel a little bit bad about this really nice graphic I had made. So when creating this presentation, I really tried to put myself back into those shoes, right? Like trying to figure out how to keep that content machine fed with restraints like time, money, technological know-how, when sometimes it seems like the world around us has infinite resources to tackle those things. So hopefully today I'll be able to guide you through a few steps that'll make anyone feel like they can keep up with any organization, from Boston to Broadway, without needing to dodge bullets like Neo. So why might you be lacking production assets? Well, if you're like me, you're lacking equipment. That picture to the right is my equipment suite at Speakeasy Stage Company. We got a DSLR camera, we've got a little Canon camcorder, and my personal GoPro over there. We've talked for a while about, maybe upgrading something nicer, but the reality is if I had a nicer camera, I don't even know what to do with it if I had it. I just wouldn't know where to start with all those buttons and things. So while I use this equipment from time to time also, my iPhone actually shoots better video than any of these pieces of equipment now. Maybe you're looking to fill your content calendar early in the process before you can get that sweet, sweet rehearsal photo or artist interview. We've all had to work with actors who have been a little more precious about their time, and while that's their prerogative, it isn't easy when your personnel doesn't make the publicity side come to life for you. I know we can all relate to that. Maybe your artists are thousands of miles away. During the COVID-19 pandemic, our artists were creating amazing work, but they were doing it in their bedrooms, not in our rehearsal hall. That period pushed us even harder to get creative with how we were looking at our asset creations and making our video dynamic and fresh. Or maybe you're just trying to make your marketing budget go the extra mile and looking for creative ways to cut costs. Whether you're a Tony Award-winning organization with an endowment of millions, or you're one of those very resourceful one-person departments we've heard about a little bit today, I think that these steps I'm about to give to you and these tips are something that you can use at your organization to help your budget go further. So where do we start? First, set your timeline. At Speakeasy, we do about 5 shows a year, and generally we settle into our content groove about 4 weeks out. And we like to have at least one major piece of video content per week. This can take the form of show content, rehearsal content, actor interviews, audience reactions, etc. But when we don't have those things, we also keep a few other tricks up our sleeve. Number 2, prep your calendar. I've attached a picture of what 3 weeks in our calendar looks like. We don't use any real fancy calendar documents. We really just use this big Google Sheet that all of us can edit and mark green when we've put something in. We really start slotting in major pieces on our content calendar about 2 or 3 weeks out. But we build the fodder pieces around it, really week of or even on a day-by-day basis. Get together with your stakeholders. In 2020, we started a weekly editorial meeting to deal with all the demands coming in from COVID and dealing with messaging around the summer of BLM. And we started meeting as all departments every week, beginning on Monday, led by the marketing team, to make sure that as an organization, we were staying on message. This is something that was really good. Teresa brought up that point earlier of thinking of organization as organism. Really going to steal that one. That was really awesome. I really think that this has helped us see our organization as an organism and make sure that we are keeping on task with our content. And then finally, figure out where your holes are. This past show, English, currently running now at Speakeasy Stage Company, get your tickets, running now through November 19th. The woman who we hire sometimes to film our pre-show feature interviews came down with COVID right before we were going to shoot. Yeah, big bummer. So we had to figure out how we would fill this part of our content plan. And we needed to figure out what was going to happen to fill that gap. Stay tuned to learn more. So at Speakeasy, every rehearsal process begins with a speech from the director. Every time that we as a marketing department see that speech, we make sure to film it for referring to later. And we use that as a linchpin of how we work our operations, so that we're listening to the heart of our art within our artists. Tip number 1, know the heart of your art. So when we did a production of Aziza Barnes's Blacks back in 2020, and our director, Tanasia Jones, told us that this show was about black femme joy, well, we loved it, and we ran with it. That's really all it was. It was sometimes just that easy. We grabbed a quick photo shoot. I got a couple of costumes from our costume designer, just some stuff that we thought would be fun, and we put 3 words up on the screen. And in a world where our average view times are getting shorter and shorter, we let our audience know what the show was about in big, bold letters before the first second of the video. We were producing a play that was to celebrate black femme joy, and we just came out and said that. Let's use another example. Remember how I just said earlier that our videographer for our current production of English through November 19th, got sick? Well, we needed another way to talk about the show. English is about how language affects our identities and our cultures, and how learning a second language affects the way that your identity interacts with the world. It's really beautiful, right? But it doesn't exactly fit on a t-shirt really neatly. So what were we going to do to talk about it? Well, we enlisted the actors and directors to teach quick lessons in Farsi on our Facebook page. It was so cool, and all the videos so far had an organic reach beyond what we generally see for our short-form content, especially in vertical form, by roughly a factor of 5 or so. It really said what the show was about without going into really long, detailed academic answers or things that would get lost along the way. Our constituency really responded to this really well. In the arts, so often we talk about an elevator pitch, but in the social media era, your elevator pitch is just too long. You get the amount of time that it takes for me to lose interest and keep swiping. And sometimes that's going to involve finding creative ways to convey your message, especially when it's a really complex one. On the other hand, recently we closed our production of Heroes of the Fourth Turning. For those who don't know, Heroes of the Fourth Turning is about conservatives in rural Wyoming talking in their backyard. And we really couldn't find a really concise way to talk about it. Our director had talked about it in 4 or 5 different ways. Our artistic director talked about it in 3 or 4 different ways. Even if it was in a marketing department, we really couldn't find that thesis, that heart of our art. And that lack of clarity in our messaging really hurt our sales. That show really struggled. On the other hand, these are 2 really successful shows for us. The Inheritance, Matthew Lopez's Inheritance. We did an award-winning play about pride. And An Unlikely Friendship, a shocking request for our production of The Sound Inside. Just these really quick, easy graphics that put right out there what's your thesis of the show and what's at the heart of your art. Tip number 2, don't create if you can reuse. When we were coming back after our 18-month COVID hiatus, we really wanted to find content that would get people hyped to come back to the theater. So I went out and I shot our marquee getting put up for the very first time at the Calderwood Pavilion after 18 months. So our metrics on this video weren't wildly off the charts, but I had people coming up to me in the lobby of the Calderwood Pavilion telling me what an emotional experience this post was for them. To be able to come back to the theater and see that we were putting ourselves back out into the world again. And it was such an easy haul. I filmed this, put it on my computer, got sound behind it through some Adobe stock footage music on it, and got it approved by my boss all in about 30 minutes. This was really a short haul for a really great offering in terms of video. In fact, so much so that we have made it a staple of every single content calendar. We really love getting these marquee videos out there. And it's something about this ordinary to us that is extraordinary to our audiences, which brings me to number 2.5. Their ordinary is your extraordinary. You may have heard this a little bit earlier, but I'm going to use it a slightly different way. We think about so many of the things we do in the arts as kind of just the humdrum of what we do in terms of, warm-ups for rehearsal, vocal exercises. These might seem a little blah, but to Joe Q ticket buyer, they're completely foreign and fascinating. There's a reason that anyone who's run a talkback for a theater production gets the question, so, how did you memorize all those lines? And maybe that's something that your audience really wants to know and you should be putting on your social media. Audience members want to engage with your work, not just on stage, but before. Content like rehearsal photos, backstage photos, design presentations, these have a great amount of reach on our page, and your artists will have a great time sharing them as well for their audiences. The best part is this is work that you guys don't even need to do yourselves most of the time. At the beginning of each process, I send out an empty Google Drive folder to all of our artists and ask them to send in whatever backstage content they might have in the rehearsal hall, provided they have permission of anyone who's in the video or photo or whatnot. This is something they really love to do. They send it out to me, just them having fun backstage. It's really great content. It's often really awesome video content, and I don't need to spend a second filming it. I can just upload it straight to the page with a fun caption. So here's another example. In 2019, we were producing a production of Joshua Harmon's Admissions that examines white privilege through the lens of college admissions. This was 4 months after the Varsity Blues scandal broke out with Lori Loughlin. You might have remembered that. That was really great for us. Josh Harmon is one of our most popular playwrights, and with his previous shows, Bad Jews and Significant Other, being major hits for us, we wanted to be able to communicate that the show was funny, thought-provoking, and had an artist attached to it that you would know, topical, relevant. And we wanted audiences to know that in roughly 15 seconds. How were we going to do that with no assets, no show photos, and no video? So look how much that communicated in such a little period of time. You know, we could have spent a 3-minute interview video trying to tell our audience all that, but instead, we just put it right there in textual format. And the best part of this is I made this on an app called Mojo. If you're out there and you don't have my Adobe Creative Suite skills, do not worry. Mojo is something that you can download to your phone. Super simple. It does cost a little bit of money a year. I think it's $3 a month or something. And it can help you make really great content like this that requires no assets, no Adobe skill, and no video. There's a lot of other great stuff that Mojo can do. I'm just going to leave this next one up in the background while I talk about it more for a second. Oh. He's gonna play. There we go. Oh, I didn't realize to play with music with it. That's totally fine. But this is the kind of stuff that Mojo can do for you in 30 minutes. What I love about Mojo is I can create it so quickly that I actually make them on the train ride to work sometimes. I come in, I tell my boss, look what I've been toiling away over all night, and then I take an early lunch. So this is the kind of stuff that you can really do very easily and very quickly and save time for that time-strapped arts marketing department that you are. And if you have plenty of time left over in your arts department, I really hope you're talking on the next panel, because I don't have that time. So here's just a couple of other apps that you can check out. I'm going to leave this up for a moment that you can take a picture of. Most of these I've worked with myself. If you already have an Adobe Suite subscription, you can check out the ones on the right, but the other ones as well are various levels of free or not free. I personally recommend Mojo if you're looking for a place to start. It's like $3 a month, really great investment, and it's going to really make your life so much easier and quicker. And now finally, I want to show you Speakeasy Stage Company's most successful video of all time. Are you ready? It didn't require any photos. It didn't require any videos, nothing too crazy. It's for our show, People, Places, and Things. Are you ready? So this might not really blow our minds in October of 2020, but 2022, but you won't believe what people were doing about this in January. So we didn't have a strategy planning meeting for this. We really wanted to make sure that we got in on the ground floor when we walked into the office one January morning, and just everyone was talking about how much Wordle they were playing and how much Wordle they were seeing. And my boss, Jim Torres, he turned to me and he went, all right, we're getting in on this Wordle thing. And 2 hours later, we had come up with this. And over the next couple months, we saw so many more Wordle memes, Wordle references, and they just didn't land quite as hard. In fact, many of them landed with a big dead thud. And it's because we tried to jump on it before we could strategize about it, before we could make this big meeting, before we get so many stakeholders in to talk about it. And I really think that's what made this post so successful. It had 9.7 times the reach of any of our normal video content and was getting likes, comments, and shares from people before they'd even seen the show, before we'd even released any rehearsal photos, videos, anything. People were really loving this post. So I really encourage you, trends justify the means, to really swing hard and fast when you're looking at stuff like this. Whether it's the day of the inauguration with Bernie Sanders, or when Spirit Halloween closes down your show in mid-October, this is the kind of thing you really want to make sure you're swinging big and swinging fast. Because sometimes you'll hit a home run, and when you strike out, everyone will have forgotten about it by next week. So let's talk key takeaways. Know the heart of your art. Make sure that you really know the thesis of what you're saying, and don't be afraid to just put it out there and say it. You don't have to be coy about it. Black, femme, joy. Check your privilege. What can you find out in a single scroll? Forget your elevator pitch. You need a pitch that's the speed of a single scroll. Lack of clarity in messaging is death. If you can't come together and figure out what you're saying and why you're saying it, you're not going to sell your tickets. Don't create if you can recreate. Don't spend money on shiny assets if you have stuff lying around that you can already use. Your ordinary is their extraordinary. Your audience will find delight in what you often find mundane. Build your toolbox. Invest in things like Canva and Mojo that will help you go the extra mile if you don't have that Adobe wizardry. The trends justify the means. Harness the power of memes and facts to make your content go the extra mile. And swing big and swing fast. No one will remember your clunkers, and everyone will remember your home runs. Thanks, folks. Up next, we got Dave Adams from Young Arts.
Hey, everybody. I'm Dave Adams. I'm Director of Communications at Young Arts. I'm a white cis man in my early 30s. I'm tall with brown hair, and I use he, him pronouns. We'll kick this off with a show of hands. How many of you in this room have ever made a really big decision, and you got to the other side of that decision, and you think, I really could have used a little bit more info? Like, Like, I'm looking for my chaos agents, right? Okay. Me too. So, maybe we made a decision. We were happy about it even, but we just wanted a little bit more info. So I'm gonna give you a personal example. Last year, after spending a decade of my adult life in Chicago, my husband and I picked up and we moved to Miami. Specifically Miami Beach. That is why my skin is not totally devoid of color in November. And so for a moment, just suspend disbelief and imagine that you're contemplating a move to Miami Beach. Winter is coming, after all. And you approach me after this presentation and you say, Dave, in your 12 months of beachy wisdom, what can I expect about Miami Beach? And I tell you this. Miami Beach is a man-made barrier island. It has the largest collection of Art Deco architecture in the world, and it has an easygoing subtropical climate with a lot of sun and a lot of rain. So you now know everything that I knew about Miami Beach before I signed my employment contract with Young Arts. But being serious, that's not a lot of info. You were probably wanting to know what the experience is like, right? And I gave you this list of facts and features. And would you make the decision based off of this alone? Maybe you would. I'm not in a position to judge. I did it 12 months ago. But it's not a lot to go off of. So let's take a moment, though, put Miami on ice, and think about our work. Our audience has questions for us, explicit, implicit, all the time, about the journeys that we're asking them to take. And a lot of times, it's tempting to come at them with facts and features, right? To list it off for them. And so it's tempting because we're rolling in features in the arts, whether it's what comes in a membership or subscription, the perks of enrolling in a program, who's on stage this season, our on-site hospitality offerings. Wherever it is you work, you know your features. But think about what you're asking of your prospective customer, a human, when all you give them is facts and features. You're making them do the heavy lifting. You're making them imagine. You're making them connect the dots. When really they just want to know this. What will it be like? So we have an opportunity. Instead of making our audience do all that work imagining, we could show them relatable human stories that could help them see that not only is the journey that we're asking them to take worthwhile, but that they might get to the other side and feel like they belong, feel like they're at home. We have an opportunity to go from telling to showing. Using the basic facts or features as a starting point, we can then share real human stories and benefits. So let's talk about how we've approached this at Young Arts. Oops. At Young Arts, we identify exceptional young artists, amplify their potential, and invest in their lifelong creative freedom. The starting point of that work is identify. We do this through an annual national arts competition open to 15 to 18-year-old artists throughout the United States across 10 different artistic disciplines. Thousands of young artists apply each year. Their application and audition materials are judged by esteemed artists in their respective fields, and a small number of the applicants are named Young Arts Award winners. And even if you've never heard of Young Arts, which I hope isn't too many of you, because I've tried to be friendly and say hey over the past couple of days, I can guarantee you that you've probably heard of a Young Arts Award winner that we awarded as a pre-professional teenage artist, whether it's actors Kerry Washington, Timothée Chalamet, Hunter Schafer, visual artist Daniel Arsham, Hernan Bass, dancer and choreographer Camille Brown. The list goes on, and these are just a fraction of the more than 20,000 artists that we've awarded in our 40-year history. So when a young artist applies to the Young Arts competition, here's what they have a chance to win. Cash awards of up to $10,000, mentorship from renowned artists in their field, a lifetime of support, including grants, award, fellowship, and residency opportunities, and finally, access to a network of 20,000 fellow winners to connect and collaborate with. So that sounds pretty great, right? Like, that's a cool features list. But imagine you're a 15 or 16-year-old artist. As a marketer, I'm asking you to make a commitment, to take a journey. Spend time assembling your portfolio, writing artist statements, connecting with your educators and getting support to submit your application. And I've told you that if you win, you'll get these things. It's a start, but could we do better than that? What stories could we tell? How could we take something abstract and turn it into a relatable story that makes a potential applicant say, yeah, that could be me? So that's what we asked ourselves about a year ago when we reevaluated our application campaign materials at Young Arts. So in partnership with the Capacity Interactive team, big shout out, we developed a shared goal: use the media-rich space of social platforms to go from telling potential applicants the features of the competition to showing them the benefits of winning through immersive stories. So let's start with process. To start showing stories instead of telling about features, we knew we needed to engage the people who hold those stories, Young Arts Award winners. First things first, we named all the features we wanted to communicate in the application campaign, that list you just saw. Then we reframed those features as benefits. So for example, instead of access to grants and funding, what about imagine having money for equipment purchases, studio rental fees, and more? We're taking something abstract and making it real. Funding is a feature. Affording workspace to develop a project is a benefit. Once we outlined our benefits, we set up our working team. On our strategic comms team at Young Arts, there's a lot of overlap between digital storytelling and the storytelling that's also happening in public relations. So we took advantage of that. At Young Arts, our public relations person is Heike. She's incredible. And part of her job is to be on top of all the storylines and storytellers that help give our audiences the fullest picture possible of what Young Arts is and what we do. So for this project, which is on its face in the digital and social space, our PR person was actually an MVP. So then we worked with Heike and the team to develop a big list of possible artists to participate, thinking about whose story best aligns with which benefit, while also striving for intersectionality across the campaign: age, career stage, background, artistic discipline. It was no small feat. We wrote briefs on each artist, including their bios, their history with Young Arts, any media already on file. And our creative team came up with an A-list and a backup list of who would make the strongest participants in the campaign to produce a series of reels. And then from there, we crossed our fingers and made our asks. Working artists are super busy people, but we were really excited to get a chorus of excited yeses. Each artist received a robust instruction packet with self-filming instructions and an interview guide of questions to answer. And then we had arrived at the hard part. Waiting and politely hounding. So full disclosure, if you're a person who likes to feel in control, this is not your favorite part. This part of the process took a lot of diligence and a lot of follow-ups. We had to navigate a couple shifts in participants and content delivery dates, but in the end, we got some really great content. And finally, the part that I'm sure you're wanting to see is the put it together part. The brilliant creative team took all the clips and media we received from artists and molded them into really great stories, a few of which I'm excited to share with you now. So let's take a look at some results. First up, grants and awards. In the abstract, getting a lump of cash sounds great. But what does it actually mean to get that money? Instead of talking about money, how can we show how transformative those awards are and grants are when you're trying to start a career or see an artistic project through? So let's take a look.
The cash award that I received from Young Arts is the reason that I was able to open my own bank account.
Had worked now featured in museums, and none of that was happening before we received this grant.
Winning the prize award, I could almost instantly see my life changing.
That small sum can help you pay a bill, can help you pay your rent. And when you get to those larger grants, that funding can help you realize a dream.
So you really can't put a price on that line from Usha Marie Sorzano. She used her cash award to start her bank account. That takes the concept of money and makes it so real to a potential teenage applicant. Something they're really thinking about. So if you're nerdy, this reel was a strong performer. Here's some numbers here I'm not going to read to you. People love money, so we see this type of content perform really well. This, in fact, was the highest performer of the campaign in terms of page views, conversion rate, and exits to our application platform. So let's take a look at another. Mentorship. For this reel, we want to take the concept of mentorship and show what a real relationship looks like. And for this one, we had to get extra creative. Joshua Banbury, a singer, librettist, and Young Arts Award winner, and accomplished cellist Marika Hughes were paired in a mentee-mentor relationship, almost entirely remotely. Their interactions were based in Zoom meetings and phone calls, and there wasn't a lot of supporting video or photo documentation. But we were still able to engage them to tell a great story and make the abstract concept of mentorship feel really tactile.
What I wanted out of a mentor was someone who could inspire me and motivate me, but also someone that I could relate to.
My mentee, Joshua, and I chose each other. His voice has something very special in it, and it touched me immediately. Joshua and I have talked about a lot of things, from how to write an email, to a presenter, to how to negotiate a better fee.
We've been able to talk so much about moving through the classical world as a person of color. She began to feel like a family member to me, and that was really important.
So what I really love about this one is how both deep and personal it is, but also super practical. We can imagine, and we even see here, that Joshua and Marika spent a lot of time in deep ontological discussions, right, about their artistic careers, about systemic issues, but we also see the practicality behind it. Marika was teaching Joshua how to email a presenter, negotiate up a fee, and these are all things that artists are thinking about and that make mentorship feel really real. So let's look at one more. At Young Arts, we hope to make our investments in exceptional young artists who will pursue a life in the arts, impact their fields, and whom we can support throughout the arc of their careers. For a 16-year-old, though, the rest of your life is a wild concept, let alone the thought of pursuing a life in the arts. That's just a lot when you're that age. So this reel was designed to show what bits and pieces of that life can actually look like, combined with a little motivation to take the leap.
Support from Young Arts grows with you. Young Arts showed my parents that there's a whole entire art world filled with different jobs, opportunities.
But photography is honestly always throughout my day, and it's always in my schedule.
I love to just tell stories from my community.
Some of the best people that you'll meet, some of the most amazing experiences that you'll have, all come from Young Arts.
It's your time
to pursue a life
in the arts.
And so this post actually performed really well in terms of visibility, reach, and engagement, which was great to see given the broader nature of the message. So this was just a sampling of the full suite of reels we ran throughout the campaign. And when I take a step back and look at everything together, it's so cool to see the transformation from a list of features to a series of human stories that when you put it all together, show the depth of what it's really like to become a Young Arts Award winner. And it's even more incredible to see that it actually resonates. At Young Arts, digital communications is just one component of many variables that go into making a successful application campaign. But all these variables do work together. And we're really proud to share that that year over year, applications received this cycle increased 8%. So when we got that news, there was a big cheer from everyone on our team, including the digital comms team. So I'm willing to bet that there's something you sell, something you market that has a lot of features, and I'm sure you know those features really well. They're probably in a bullet list somewhere on your website or in a short paragraph. Maybe your museum membership includes exclusive access to exhibition curator talks. But what if your prospective members could imagine the knowledge of artists and art history they gain in the process? Your after-school programs might offer 90 minutes of immersive cross-cultural experiences for young music lovers. But what if you let parents imagine the growth that their kid would experience from taking part? Maybe your theater has 3 different bars in the lobby. But what if you could help your prospective ticket buyers imagine those bars as a space of connection where they could meet friends or clients without having to rush before curtain? So if you start challenging yourself, the opportunities show up again and again. And behind every benefit, there's a passionate storyteller who can encourage others to make the same journey that they've made. So here are some key points I hope you'll take back with you. Knowing the features is highly valuable, but don't stop there. Features aren't bad, they just aren't all. How can you take the facts, then mine for a story? Identify your storytellers. For the Young Arts application, it's award winners. You have a wealth of success stories, human experiences just waiting to be told. And your members, your students, your subscribers, your ticket buyers, your fans. Who has the experience that can encourage someone else to make the journey? Think beyond your bubble. Who else can support your project? On our team, that was Heike. On your team, maybe it's your colleague in the box office. Maybe it's a teaching artist or membership staff. Getting commitment and content from your storytellers starts and finishes with strong relationships. And plan ahead. Showing instead of telling takes more time, but it is worth it. It's a good idea to make a plan B and build in buffers so your project is a success, even if you hit some hitches. So before I go, I'd be remiss not to remind you that you're considering a move to South Beach. You may not have really been sold on the matter earlier, so I thought I'd show you a little bit of what it looks like. If you have pets, moving is tough on them too. This is Richard and Parker clinging to each other like it's all they have left 24 hours out from our flight. This is Richard adjusting to a collar. That's not typical for him. I could watch that like all day. When you wake up early for your first day of work, an unsettled bundle of nerves, you do get to start your day with your feet in the Atlantic, watching the sun climb up over the edge of the earth, bathing Ocean Drive in pastel orange. You might take a coffee break one afternoon and discover that the Cuban term for jet fuel is Cafe Bustelo. This is a colada. It comes in a little cup with a bunch of littler cups. And the key takeaway here is all those littler cups are for other people, not for you. This was correct. That was a weird afternoon. Those 60 inches of rain are real. Rainy season is pretty wet. But one Sunday evening, about a year into your time here, you might take a long walk to the pier, get caught in a downpour, and surprisingly find yourself feeling happy and maybe even at home. Thank you for your time. And now please welcome Kevin and Marissa from the Museum of the American Revolution, who will talk about staying nimble while planning ahead.
Little snack time for everybody. Hi, I'm Marissa Stern. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a white woman with long brown hair, wearing glasses, black and white pants, and a black sweater, and I'm the social media manager at the Museum of the American Revolution.
And I'm Kevin Rossi. My pronouns are he, him. I'm the web editor at the museum. I'm a white man with glasses, brown hair, a short beard, and I'm wearing a gray blazer with a blue shirt. Together, we oversee the social media channels at the Museum of the American Revolution in historic Old City, Philadelphia. We are so sorry about Hitchbot. That was such a weird time in the city, but it's a wonderfully weird city, I swear. At the museum, our mission is to uncover and share compelling stories about the diverse people and complex events that sparked America's ongoing experiment in liberty, equality, and self-government.
So one of our favorite things about working in digital content is that there are infinite ideas and possibilities. Working at a history museum, we know firsthand it can be hard to create content that feels relevant and timely. So how do you carefully and thoughtfully plan out your content calendar while also staying agile enough to stay on top of social media trends and react to what's happening in the world around us? So we're from Philadelphia, where we trust the process, which is just a little nod to our hometown 76ers. But the idea is as simple as it sounds. So we're going to give you a quick glimpse into what we trust most about our process and how you can create your own process that you can trust in order to balance planning ahead and staying nimble.
So we see social content for an organization as existing roughly on a spectrum between scheduled and automated and on the fly and in the moment. There's obviously a lot of in between there that we'll get into, but there can be a time and a place for both ends of that spectrum, so it really doesn't always have to be at odds like Patrick and SpongeBob here. They can complement each other really well, and that's one of those things that we really try to play with at the museum. Social's not rigid, so long as you connect with your audience and create buy-in from your teams that both ends of the spectrum can work. We both come from backgrounds as writers, so we share an appreciation for great stories. And we try to bring that into our work as content creators when trying to find relatable topics to cover. Working at an academic-leaning institution, all these arts organizations, you guys have beautiful, beautiful work. We exist on a color scheme of like beige to brown, so little bit older. Five-year-old institution, 250-year-old history, it's a little tricky at times. So we need to find ways to make it relatable. And we need to be intentional about how we're presenting content to our wider audience. We ask ourselves a lot of questions every day as storytellers. What are we trying to say? Why this story? Why this piece of content? And importantly, why now? We do this essentially out of necessity. We all might be part of nonpartisan institutions, but our content is not apolitical, and especially in this current climate. So working in content relating to a literal revolution, in our case, we always try to have our finger on the pulse of what's happening in the world and on social media around us.
So for us, having a system is key. We use a simple shared calendar in Excel. Someone was saying earlier not to discount Excel. So we'd like to introduce you to what we endearingly call the puzzle. So this is a more zoomed out view to get a quick high-level look before we dive in a little more closely. But we wanted to point out here that we have a notes column on the left side where we can drop ideas periodically and keep track of content pieces like press stories that we can post when they're convenient for us. And also at the bottom, you'll see some calendar tabs going back to when Kevin started at the museum back in October of 2018. It's super useful for us to be able to look back at past years. There are tons of social-specific programs out there. There's even just good old printed calendar and pencil. Do whatever works for you and trust that there will be another time to use good content if it gets bumped back for something timelier or more urgent. So in our calendar, we mark important dates like museum events and programs, historical dates related to the American Revolution, real holidays and internet holidays like national days, weeks, months, that might be useful for us. So those are the puzzle pieces that we know we have in place. In the screenshot on the top of this slide, we have a week that was about a week or so ago from going live, but we had started to fill in with some possible ideas. And on the bottom, we have a completed week where all the content have been posted with the time of posting and to which platform so that we can stay organized for our future selves. Speaking of our future selves, having all of our past calendars all in one place allows us to be able to look back as a reminder, and then having future months or even the next year's calendar available allows us to evaluate in real time and make notes for our future selves. So in the couple examples that we have here, in one, we made a note to avoid using statues of Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr's duel because they hadn't been as well received as in past years. And then in the other, which is something that we deal with a lot as a museum, is we made a little note that we returned an object to a lender, so we should find a new content feature for the next time that that date rolls around.
So we use our core content types as an opportunity to achieve specific goals like sharing those compelling stories, building historical empathy, and showcasing our collection, our museum, and our digital resources. We really always try to post with a purpose. We have tons of straightforward content pieces like making a simple connection between, say, National Beer Day and Valley Forge beer trays that we have in our collection. But here we have a bit more of a heavy lift content example that involves really a cross-departmental lift with our videographer, the whole Marcoms team, and our gallery interpretations team. And in this case, it's a spoof of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, except instead of the regular cast, we have a group of British redcoats to promote our Occupied Philadelphia Living History event. You might know that more as reenactments. That recreates scenes from the fall of 1777. This event is actually happening tomorrow, but of course, we're going to watch the video. That is seriously one of our favorite days of the year, and funny story, it was my second day working there when I started in 2018, so you can imagine I was like, what am I walking into right now? Being a history museum tied to a specific series of events, we really follow the calendar of the historical dates pretty closely. So, for example, if it's the 4th of July, we're going to be talking a lot about the Declaration of Independence because we want to anticipate what people are thinking. While this is challenging at times, like I mentioned, we have a difficult color scheme to work with. We deal with an old topic that people don't always see themselves as relevant, or the topic being relevant today. We really see it as an opportunity to build a rapport with our audience over time. And we always try to change up the stories that we're telling each year. So in this example, we have a somewhat more obscure battle, the Battle of Guilford Courthouse. This is an example from a post in 2021 from it's a book excerpt from our popular Read the Revolution series to mark this historic date. But then in marking that same historical date in 2022, we used a painting from a short-term temporary exhibit that we had going on by historical artist Don Troiani. The exhibit was Liberty, Don Troiani's paintings of the Revolutionary War. You don't have to get too creative. That was open at the time of this date. Could we have posted the same exact thing as years past and it did just as well? Of course we could, but we really wanted to use this opportunity to showcase a different part of what we were doing at the museum and what we thought was important.
So despite this relative predictability and year-over-year consistency, we also need to stay nimble to content that follows less of a pattern, like our take on the Little Miss meme that you probably saw everywhere, and other viral moments, press stories, and new discoveries, installations, and exhibits. So these are the puzzle pieces that we need to figure out where they fit and adapt them when necessary. We want to avoid seeming too robotic and avoid losing the social aspects that make social media so unique. We really want to use this type of content to expand our audience and reach people in more relatable ways. And it helps us with our paid work with capacity to help keep our content fresh and fun. So how does it all come together into what you see on the museum's channels? One of our most reliable strategies is a regularly scheduled weekly check-in where we plan out the puzzle for the upcoming week to 10 days of content as firmly as we can and identify which content we consider must-run or content that if something more urgent arises, we can move to a later date. We also take a longer hopes and dreams look at pieces that might take a larger lift, like the video from earlier or experimenting with something like Reels or TikTok videos. Recently, we carved pumpkins with our branded stencils, so things like that might take a little more time. And additionally, the two of us are in constant contact with each other on Teams, either sharing ideas or reviewing upcoming posts. So that sort of ongoing communication is essential for us, especially in something as fast-moving as social content.
Believe it or not, we don't know everything. I know. I thought that would hit harder. And we definitely always have we don't always have the photo or video asset to bring it all together, to bring all of our ideas to life. But we've had success kind of creating these extended content retreats that we'll get a little bit more into. But really, at the core of it is making space for ourselves to recharge our creativity. We found it much easier to block off some larger chunks of time to kind of dig into our content and regenerate creativity. We're lucky to work together as a team. I know not everybody is lucky enough to have that on their social team. But working as a pair, we're able to bounce ideas off of each other and kind of pick the other one up when the other's creativity might be feeling a little bit more burnout. And of course, we have our personal strategies to combating creative burnout as well, like limiting our screen time in off hours. We try. And specifically looking through creative content from non-museum industries like the Philly food scene or Philly sports, which is having a moment right now. Professionally, our extended content retreats help us sort of recharge and look deeper at our content and in a much different light than in a busy work day or work week. So some examples of some day-long explorations that we've done to dive deep into our content. We've kind of gone back through the years of what we've been posting, the types of stories we've been telling, and diving into the analytics with a sort of SWOT analysis to make tweaks on the fly. We've blocked off a full day to simply explore our historic neighborhood. We're lucky to have a museum that is literally right amongst the Revolutionary War sites and American Revolution sites. to sort of find new ideas, find new tie-ins to our galleries out there, and obviously refresh our digital assets. And then we've spent some time kind of digging into our galleries, just intentionally walking through our own spaces again to kind of pick out things that maybe we might have missed before and weren't in the puzzle previously.
We really feel that constant constructive communication, especially with other departments, is key. Don't feel like you need to do this on your own, which is a teaser for big takeaways later. In the example on the screen, this is a real email exchange that I had with one of our curators looking for potato content, just to try to find a different story that we could tell for the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah. So we're able to really lean on the expertise of others to help us, and unfortunately we did not have a lot of potato content. We'll try again next time.
Truly a bummer.
I really thought. What can you do? That's not even the weirdest email that I've sent him, so.
Also, notice it says changing the subject a bit from bones to start.
I have no context. It's just, that's what it is. For more regularly scheduled FaceTime with other departments, I also run a cross-departmental social meeting to brainstorm and look ahead with representatives from across the museum. This collaborative meeting really helps everyone play a part in what they will see on the museum's social accounts. And these meetings allow us to rely on the experts in each field to do what they do best. We see ourselves as translators. We're not professional historians. We don't pretend to be. But in fact, we see that as one of our strengths because it helps us put our content into more relatable and accessible formats than more traditional academic settings. And using work that our incredible teammates and coworkers have already done so well that's available to us has been a huge help. A beautifully illustrated example is our Finding Freedom interactive, images from which we have displayed here, that dives into the stories of 5 people of African descent seeking freedom from enslavement in 1781 Virginia. Having label copy written and already approved for everything on display in the museum and highlighted online is a unique benefit for museums. And it's most efficient for us to avoid duplicating efforts on work that's already gone through the approval process. In addition to what's on display in the museum at any given time, we have a robust slate of digital offerings like online exhibits, 360-degree virtual tours, and interactive features that we can draw from and keep cohesion in our storytelling. We also dig deep into documents like exhibit scripts, scripts to our films and performances, you name it, to mine for ideas and approved copy.
So at the end of the day, what does success look like for us? At the museum, we really value engagement and shares. We deal with a really specific era of American history and a number of niche topics within that era. So getting our content beyond our core audience is really a major goal for everyone. In a more qualitative way, we're really mindful of the quality of comments we get on our posts. Of course, working with inherently political content, we do get some unfortunate comments at times, as we all have to deal with as content creators, unfortunately. But we really get some very thoughtful and personal comments as well, particularly with people sharing their own family's relation to the war and how much it means to them that we're telling their stories. It truly can't be overstated how far positive, thoughtful comments go for content creators. It really reminds you of why you do what you do on a daily basis. We've also learned quite a bit over time. One observation for us, at least, has been that history museums tend to be a little bit slower to viral trends and memes. So knowing where your industry is on that curve is really important. Not every meme or viral moment is for us, and that is a beautiful thing to come to terms with. And we've really learned to trust our process to avoid the rushing, because we feel like rushing is where our mistakes happen. And ensuring that we remember the human element is crucial for us. Like in this example on the screen, which is an interview done with an archaeologist who led a dig in New Jersey that found bones of Hessian or German soldiers from the war. While this is an incredible discovery that will surely advance our understanding of the era and of the war, these soldiers were people themselves. They have descendants and families that are living today and reading this news, and we are kind of caretakers to that, to their humanity and their story, and we take that pretty seriously. We didn't live through the period, obviously. That would be impressive. And it wasn't a great time for everybody, and we're very cognizant of that in our work, and extra care must be taken not to forget that.
So to wrap up, here are some big takeaways that you can start working to incorporate in your strategy at any time. First is to know your story and experiment with your content to tell it. Dig into anything that you have at your disposal to gain a deeper understanding of what you're working with. Artifacts, labels, scripts, documents, important dates, digital archives, photos, videos, audio, behind the scenes, anything that will help you tell your story. Try experimenting with different types of content to see what resonates with your audience. And always post with the purpose of moving your story forward. Next is to find your support system. Even if you're part of a small team or a one-person show, don't feel like you're alone. Involve people who don't explicitly work in digital content in your process too. You'll find that many of them love to be involved in such a creative and visible part of your organization. Plus, they have their own social media and have their own relationship to your organization's content, and they have great ideas that you can adapt. Give yourself space to recharge your creativity. It's tough to squeeze out creativity at the drop of a hat, and it's tough to learn in a time crunch. So build time into your professional schedule to intentionally explore your content and reevaluate. And we know it's hard, but don't forget to build time into your personal schedule as well to replenish. And last, build a system that works for you. Start small if you need to. Build yourself a content calendar. Plan some uninterrupted time to dig into your content. Set up a cross-departmental brainstorm. No matter what you choose to do, the most important thing is to choose the right system and tools that work best for you or your team. There's no one right answer. You have to find your process and trust it. And that's all we got.